There was a lot of speculation at the time, and there still is a lot of speculation that there may have been others involved in some of those murders. Gacy always said he didn't kill all the boys, and he alluded to the idea that there could have been a bigger picture, that there may have been a snuff film operation, and that some of these young men and boys were being killed and videotaped, and the videos sold on the black market. He didn't give me names. He didn't say he was involved. He didn't tell me who was involved, but he alluded to that. When he first said that to me, I was thinking, this sounds like a bunch of BS. And then I thought about it, and I thought, well, Gacy liked to make money. There were probably other people involved in these crimes. There was probably a black market for snuff films back then, if you like that kind of stuff, so maybe that did make sense.
The thing of it is, they want you to believe that I and I alone committed these murders, and I had nothing to do with the murders of anyone.
If anybody was involved, then how many people are we talking about beside yourself?
We believe there was 4 people involved, and that would be Michael Rossi, David Cram, Philip Paskey.
Both Rossi and Cram denied any knowledge of Gacy's murders or of any of their involvement in anything.
Phil Paskey was from Chicago. He was one of those people who got into trouble, did a little drugs, did a little of this. And somehow John Norman came into his life.
So the story goes like this. There's a guy named John Norman. Norman does some jail time for assaulting some kids in Homewood, Illinois. While he's in the Cook County Jail, using the jail printing press, he creates this newsletter, the Delta Project, this sex trafficking ring that's going to men who want to have sex with boys.
And while he was in Cook County Jail, he met Phil Paskey. And when he got out of jail, Cook County Jail, Paskey took over the operation of Norman's operation.
Here we've got a Philip Paskey who had a newsletter going out of the Cook County Jail. And here he is involved with a guy named John Norman. And John Norman was running Boys for Hire. They were making snuff films with young boys. To me, they were pimping them off. They were selling them.
So the connection is this. John Norman, running the Delta Project sex trafficking ring, has an assistant named Phil Paskey. And guess what? Phil Paskey works for John Wayne Gacy.
In 1977, the Judiciary Committee of the United States Senate put together a subcommittee to investigate the problem of child sex trafficking. Their first hearing was in Chicago. They called it a hub, the center of the country's business in child sex trafficking.
And yet, nobody ever thought, hey, maybe we ought to look at that sex trafficking ring that was investigated by Congress in 1977 when you're investigating John Wayne Gacy in 1978.
I guess you kind of got to ask yourself, what are the odds that Phil Paskey, who's John David Norman's right-hand man, is working a day or two here and there for Gacy?
I can't believe that there wasn't some crossover. Gacy loved pornography. There's certainly evidence that if John wasn't making stag films, he was trying to.
After John had been arrested, the police had gone through. There was a big dresser and something else that we had picked up and taken that wasn't ruined or destroyed. And when we got it home, underneath the drawers were some packets that were taped to the thing. I would think, if anything, the police would have found those. It was just kind of weird. And they were some pornographic pictures. It was John. It was like a 3-person thing. I was shocked. And I put them back in the envelope. I don't know if I gave them to Sam Amaranti or if I gave them to a detective that came to the house. I said, I can't believe that these were not found.
Not that John Wayne Gacy is a credible witness here, but he says they ought to look into John Norman and look at his videos to see if they can identify any victims, and sort of implying that John Norman is involved in this.
There was a crossover when we checked into John Norman's background, that he goes all the way back to the early 70s, involved in he ran the Norman Foundation, he run Epic International and the Odyssey Foundation out of Dallas, Texas. And these were organizations where wealthy men could hire young boys for sexual weekends. Male prostitution.
Had you ever met Norman? You ever had any contact with Norman?
I have yet to see a current picture of him, and therefore I'd had to say no. Phil Paskey may have been with him at one time or another, because, see, again, I came home from out of town at times, and Phil Paskey would be at the house drinking beer or something like that. David Cram is the one that brought Phil Paskey in, because Cram, when he didn't want to do nothing, he got a hold of this guy and said, well, this guy can get you somebody for sex.
I mean, Gacy clearly knew who John Norman was, and his deflection, his lie was, oh, I don't think I know him. Do you have a picture? John knows who his accomplices were, and somehow he's like protected them. So the fact that he kind of threw Paskey out there is like suspicious.
That was typical Gacy, sort of like, don't look over here, look over there. So you never knew if he was telling the truth or he was really leading you somewhere that you should be going. You didn't know with him.
I think Phil Paskey is the bridge here. He works for John Wayne Gacy, and he works for John Norman of the Delta Project sex trafficking ring. Is that a coincidence? If nothing else, it's worth looking into. I don't know that they ever looked into it at all. I just don't get that. So that contributes to this cloud of suspicion. You would think that as the generation passed, that someone would say, it's time. It's time to get to the bottom of this. And I just don't see it happening.